One Piece chapter 980 is out, and like I've been saying for a minute now, Mako has arrived in Wano. As somebody who was confidently saying it's not about if Mako is coming but when Mako is coming, I feel super rewarded by this chapter. The Mako stuff obviously happened right at the end of the chapter though, and I take these reviews chronologically, so we'll talk about that a little later on. Before I begin the chapter review, I'd like to quickly say check the description for links to my Discord, previous reviews, and my Twitter. And also I want to quickly say I am in fact reviewing the scan release of the chapter as always, so if there's any changes in translation when the official comes out, I will make sure to address that in a future video. In the last 7 or 8 reviews I have done on this channel, I have never brought up the cover page or cover story because I just wanted to focus on the events of the chapter, and I wasn't a huge fan of Capone's cover story. We got an absolutely awesome double spread in this chapter. We got Sanji on a DJ, Luffy, Nami, just the whole gang looking awesome. I absolutely loved it. Probably one of Oda's best pieces. Usually I would just skip over something like this, but this looked way too good for me to not talk about it. And since we never got anything from Capone Gang Veggies or my family, I think that cover story might be completed. Hopefully you get something juicy next, because I want something canon to show us what's going on around the world, so I'm excited for what we're going to get next. I don't think it's going to be anything major, but we'll see. Now though, onto the events of the actual chapter, and it picks up right where it left off last week, with Kid squishing Apu like a bug and sending him deep into the ground. And boy, this was a powerful strike, a named attack from Kid, and it visibly hurt Apu quite a bit, as you can see. He's injured, his glasses are broken, but this guy is definitely not out for the count. I immediately, from last chapter, I was saying this guy, there's no way he got knocked out. And he obviously didn't get knocked out. He's quite a durable guy, but this attack did wound him. Kid is standing there looking absolutely awesome in his Beast Pirate's disguise. He just looks amazing. I've always liked his design, but all the metal and the scars go so well with the Beast Pirate's disguise and give him this very distinguished, badass sort of look. Obviously the disguise is removed very shortly after, but even his jacket looks dope with his design, bro. Kid just looks awesome. The disguise was rendered useless immediately after Kid attacked Apu anyway, because he was identified as Captain Kid of the Worst Generation. Queen has this funny gag face when he sees Kid and is both shocked as to why they want at Udon and pissed off because of Old Maid's incompetence. I find it worth noting that Queen has this angry reaction about Kid being here, and he didn't have this reaction for Luffy. However, there could be reasonable explanations for this. Either Queen has seen more of Kid and he himself sees Kid as more of a threat than Luffy, or Queen is just pissed off because both Luffy and Kid escaped. Honestly, it could be a combination of both of these things. Moving back to Kid and Apu though, and Kid is grabbing him by the collar and very expressive in his anger. I like this scene. He's pissed off about Apu's betrayal, and who can blame him, you know? Apu really stabbed these guys in the back. This entire interaction is fantastic because it had an insane amount of build up, and one thing I really like about it is the highlight of the difference between the Conquerors and these other guys in the Worst Generation. Luffy, Blackbeard, and Kid are Conquerors. When I say Conquerors though, I'm not talking about Conqueror's Haki, since we don't even know if Blackbeard has it. I just mean this in the sense that they will not allow themselves to be subjugated. Luffy and Kid would rather die than to serve somebody else. They are brimming with ambition, and nobody on the face of this earth, not even the great Yonkos, can take them under their wing. Don Chinjao told Luffy that the Conquerors from this generation are who will fight it out for the One Piece. Luffy, Kid, Blackbeard, these three have already staked their claims by not submitting to another pirate's rule. In this arc alone, so far Hawkins and Apu have both told Law and Kid about the unrealistic chances of opposing Yonko. Spirits that aim for the top being Luffy, Law, Kid, Blackbeard versus spirits that submit, Hawkins and Apu. It will be very interesting to see where the other members of the Worst Generation fall on this spectrum, like Urouge and even Law. I know I just mentioned Law as one of the Conquerors, but I don't know if we can comfortably say that he is completely determined to oppose the Yonko, and if he is as fearless as Luffy and Kid in that respect. I do believe he is, but I don't know if I can comfortably say that yet. What is Law going to do once this war is over? I guess only time will tell. Back to the chapter though, and Apu lands an attack on Kid, the exact same attack he landed on Zoro. Point blank, and this guy just takes it like a champ and calls Apu garbage, which is just hilarious to me because it's something I would expect from Kid. Hopefully that isn't changed in the official translation because that is quite hilarious. Also, Kid looks awesome in this panel. He actually reminds me of Zoro at the end of the Zoro vs Killer fight, where Zoro is smiling after being stabbed in the shoulder. The fact that Apu was able to do that straight after being hit, straight after being squished, tells me he's got solid durability and his power is extremely hacks. Shortly after this though, we finally find out how this guy's ability works, so allow me to quickly explain. As long as you can hear the sound of Apu's music, as long as you are within the radius of his sound, he can send an attack that you physically cannot dodge and will literally originate on your body. This is extremely hacks and seemingly broken on the surface, but if you block the sound wave's pathway into your ears, you will be untouchable with that same attack. So if you manage to completely get rid of your hearing, Apu won't be able to attack you using his Devil Fruit. Still, fighting with your hands on your ears is definitely not ideal, and even if you have some sort of sound cancelling headgear, you have to fight this guy without one of your 5 senses, so his Devil Fruit is definitely one of the cooler broken ones we've seen in the series so far. Ability interactions and tough matchups are always a lot more engaging and a lot more fun than a linear power scale to me personally. One Piece fights are not as simple as just power levels and who can throw the bigger punch. Sure, some fights are like that, like Luffy vs Lucci when they're both brawlers, but even when a character is overall stronger than their opponent, they can sometimes lose if they run into a bad or unknown matchup. The best example of this would be Luffy vs Caesar or Luffy vs Monet. One thing I do question though is whether or not Apu can attack non-living things with his Devil Fruit. Can he blow up buildings with sound waves the same way he blew up Kizaru and Luffy? But non-living things can't hear, so I don't know how that would be possible. And if he could do so, why wasn't he targeting the feet of Luffy, Zoro and Kid when he was attacking them? Hopefully we can get more exposition on his ability. I was honestly expecting that to happen if we were to get a full fight between Kid and Apu, but right now I highly doubt we're getting that fight anymore, which is quite unfortunate to be honest. This fight was set up for over a decade, so I was personally really looking forward to it, and the little skirmish and interaction we got was great, but it honestly was quite underwhelming compared to what I was expecting. Hopefully I am wrong and we get Kid vs Apu sometime later on in the arc, but right now let's focus on the other cool things in this chapter. We get our first number revealed, a guy by the name of Hacha who has this funky design with a funny ass smile, just what I expected from the numbers to be honest, and I've noticed that a lot of fans are unimpressed by this design, but honestly I thought it was quite fun. Plus, we know that these numbers look like Freakish Beast from chapter 954, so I'm expecting all of these guys to have Zoan Devil Fruits and they're gonna transform, so this probably isn't Hacha's only form. There's most likely 9 or 10 numbers altogether since the Beast Pirates are designed after a card theme, and this guy is called Hacha, which derives from the number 8 in Japanese, so I expect the others to have names derived from the Japanese numbers 2 to 10, maybe even the ace is one of the numbers, we'll see. I doubt Oda will show us the second or third strongest number right off the bat like that, so I think Hacha is one of the weakest numbers, and I think it could turn out that the lower your number the stronger you are, similar to Baroque works. Moving on, and Luffy, Kid, Zoro and Killer are running away from Apu, and the chemistry between them is solid. I like it a lot. The dialogue amongst them, supernatural, and just what I expect from these guys. I noticed Oda was kinda leaving Killer out and making Luffy, Kid and Zoro feel like a trio, and this is most likely because they are similar in terms of how many brain cells they have. Nah, but seriously, it's probably because they're a little more stupid than Killer, and that would provide for more interesting and entertaining interactions for us as an audience. This could also be because the guys are going to be fighting calamities moving forward though. I honestly could see Luffy fighting Jack as a relatively easy fight for him, where he tests out his new haki, Kid fighting Queen as a grudge fight because of Queen's treatment of him in the Udon prison, and Zoro fighting King because they're both swordsmen and Zoro needs to fight someone stronger than him in order to overcome them and grow stronger, which compensates for the lack of fights he's had post time skip and explains why he gets the hardest matchup. Some of the Beast Pirates were actually mocking Killer for eating the smile fruit, and this obviously pissed Kid off, but the most interesting part of this scene is that it triggered a memory within Killer, and we got a tiny flashback panel of Orochi telling Killer to eat the smile fruit in order for a chance to save his captain. There is definitely hatred for Orochi there from Kid and Killer both, so I wonder if we'll get to see them encounter each other later on in the arc. Who's Who is in the vicinity with some of his guys. They seem like his subordinates. They're definitely his subordinates, and they could have been his former crew before he was subjugated by Kaido. All of their designs are reminiscent of cats or just something feline, which tells me Who's Who probably has a cat related Zoan Devil Fruit, and I'm hyped to see that. The fact that Who's Who has his own underlings and that Black Maria owns a brothel tells me that the members of the Flying Six all probably have their own lands or domains and estates on Onigashima, which is super dope as it gives us a ton of settings for Oda to choose from when we actually begin the war. Unlike Marineford, the entire island of Onigashima is going to become a war zone, whilst Marineford was a plain battlefield that was already prepared and ready for the war. Who's Who actually has a little staring match with Queen in this scene, and boy are we going to have to wait for the official translation for this, because he basically says, right, he says, what? Queen wants to wipe somebody out? Well, that makes two of us, and this could mean different things. Right now though, I am fairly sure that they are talking about each other and they have some bad blood, because he brought up Queen when he was talking about the Flying Six, right? And Queen last chapter said he wants to get rid of one of the Flying Six. Perhaps Queen was the guy who subjugated Who's Who's crew in the past, and now Who's Who is out for revenge. We find out Big Mom wasn't told about the port, which means her children are on the ship and are trying to get into Wano up the waterfall, which is always a bad idea, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. Moving on, and we see what Kinemon's party is up to, and it turns out that these guys are actually implementing some dope strategy into their attack. They still haven't been exposed as enemies, so they're planning to take advantage of that by splitting into two and approaching Kaido from different directions in order to carry out a pincer attack. As somebody who just caught up to reading Kingdom, I know how deadly a pincer attack can be, so seeing these guys try and implement battle strategy is super dope and extremely necessary for a war of this scale and nature. Speaking of strategy, I forgot to mention, but it turns out Law's plan is actually going fairly smoothly. This is what happens when you count on idiots to be idiots, and honestly, I don't really see this plan failing until we actually get to the Yonko themselves. The half of the forces that stayed with Kinemon did make a miscalculation though. They have outdated maps, which makes a ton of sense since Kaido has been here for over 2 decades, and they are now at somewhere they do not know of. They have arrived at Black Maria's domain, and we get this beautiful panel of a building which is a brothel and a long bridge. Speaking of how beautiful that panel is, the art in this entire chapter is really something else. Oda has been producing some tremendous pages lately. I think it's because I love the aesthetic of the setting and some of the new character designs. I love seeing Kid. I just love seeing this Japanese themed setting and just the way it looks awesome. So we get Sanji going crazy over the brothel, and I'm not going to talk too much about that just because Sanji's gag in a time like this is when I hate it the most, and is one of the reasons I find him extremely obnoxious. One thing I will say though is the panel of his utter disappointment after going into the brothel was absolutely hilarious. As much as I don't like the unseriousness of this scene, it obviously had me rolling in laughter. I'm guessing the reason he looks like that is because he saw Big Mom, right? He definitely didn't identify who she was, but she's naked, so one glance at her from behind would probably make him run out of there. If he did see Big Mom, he could not have identified her, because him not getting serious after seeing a Yonko would just be ridiculous. Oda would never do that. So he probably saw her and didn't know who she was, or was just sad because he went into the brothel and it was nearly empty. That Sanji panel though, that wasn't even the funniest part of the chapter. The funniest part of the chapter is the next page, which was absolutely hilarious. Big Mom sitting there naked. Obviously we don't actually see her, but she's getting changed, and she is peering out of the window, and she locks eyes with Chopper, who is on the bridge, staring back at her in complete shock and disbelief. This scene is about to be one of the funniest scenes in the entire anime when it's actually released. Hopefully this doesn't trigger and lead into another amnesia or mental issue thing with Big Mom that turns it into Olin again, but what could make a ton of sense is if Big Mom thinks of Chopper as a friend. Her memory could be messed up because of the amnesia, and she could retain her feelings for Chopper that she had when she was Olin. To be honest, I'm fine with it as long as she isn't Olin for the entire war, because that would suck. I don't want Olin to be nerfed for this entire battle. If Big Mom is to be defeated in this arc, I want her to be defeated because of the Alliance's strength and wit, not because of the amnesia plotline. Finally though, we get to the end of the chapter where we are greeted by Perospero and the other Big Mom pirates, the laughingstocks of Wano's waterfall. These guys, man. So Marco is here, which is actually amazing news. An absolutely gorgeous entrance from my boy Marco. I have been waiting for this guy to arrive for a while now. His entrance is far better than Jinbei's, whose entrance was cool, but pretty underwhelming in my opinion compared to how clutch it could have been. Marco though, he is doing some pretty big stuff for the Alliance right now. This is a very clutch entrance because not only does he look super cool, he sends the Big Mom pirates flying off of the waterfall and leaves them to drown, and then said the next time you come up here, this age of ours might look a little different. This statement is super interesting and cool to me. Badass, snarky comment from Marco. What basically tells me is the next time you get up here, this war's gonna be done, and the age of Kaido and Big Mom's reign in the New World will have come to an end. This speaks to me and says to me that Marco is confident in the Alliance's success, and also tells me that he has no intention of allowing the Big Mom Pirates to get up here. Peros, Smoothie, Daifuku, they have actually been quiet and competent, and obviously there's not much I can expect them to do in this situation, but why not at least try and do something? They just stood there completely shocked. Peros could at least try and create a candy staircase. Daifuku could use his genie to balance the ship. Just try something rather than standing there in disbelief. I'm not that disappointed in the Big Mom Pirates because honestly there isn't much they can do in a situation like that. I mean, Marco just swooped in there and kicked them off. They're on a ship. I get it, but it is quite unfortunate, and I just hope that they aren't out of this entire war now. I hope that they do somehow bounce back from this and make it to the war zone. So Marco and the boys Nekomamushi and Izo finally made it to Wano, right? Honestly, there could be even more guys with them, like Jozu and Vista, right? Because I know we haven't seen them, but they could be here. After the warlord system was abolished and fleets of marines or admirals or SSG or whoever started chasing Weevil, it was only a matter of time before Marco was finally free to join the war. Izo's role by being here could potentially be to serve as Toki's 9th shadow in her prophecy, since we need a replacement for Kanjuro, and it's between Izo and Shinobu right now if that prophecy is to come true. Since Nekomamushi has been at sea for weeks, I expect him to have gone around recruiting pretty much all the heavyweights he could. So out of the ex-Whitebeard pirates, Jozu, Vista, maybe Little Oars Jr., the former Spade Pirates who have been to Wano before with Ace and Notama, all of these guys, I would really like it if they're all here. Since Big Mom left key figures like Katakuri and Cracker back in Totoland, Marco and the rest of the former Whitebeard Pirates are going to be an incredible boost to the Alliance, so I do hope they're all here with him. But still, it could just be Marco, Izo and Nekomamushi. We should find out in the next few chapters. I know I was dissing the Big Mom Pirates for their incompetency, but we'll see if they end up making it to the war zone through the waterfall, because Marco and the boys are obviously not going to spend too much time on them, since you know they have to deal with Kaido and Big Mom and the more important enemies at hand, and provide aid for the Alliance. I think Marco saying that by the time you get up here there will be a new age is just a snarky comment saying you're not going to be able to get here as long as I'm here, but it could be a method used to scare them off or something. The fact that Big Mom didn't know of the port though is actually quite interesting. The Big Mom Pirates are frustrated and wary of Kaido's forces, right? Peros in particular was worried about King, and Big Mom wasn't even told about the secret entrance port to Wano. Pirate alliances fall apart all the time. Hell, Apu mentioned that in this very chapter in his conversation with Kid. If Kaido is purposefully not telling Big Mom this stuff, then I applaud him, because not giving away all of his cards after a mere week of being partners with Big Mom is very good thinking on his part. Still though, there are little cracks in this alliance already, so I can see it crumbling in due time. Absolutely love the entrance from Marco in this chapter, as well as the conversation between Kid and Apu. No break next week, which is of course the greatest news of them all, and that was a good chapter. I really enjoyed it. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below though. Leave a like if you enjoyed the review, subscribe for weekly One Piece reviews and a ton of other One Piece content, and join the Discord, the link to which will be in the description. Have a great day. I've been Fiji. Peace.